Following on from the theme of Diana, we've got another estranged royal, or royals in this case, of Meghan and Harry. Right, I'm going to introduce this next conspiracy by posing the question, what springs to mind when I mention the word Megxit?
God saves our
Meghan Markle's
gracious queen.
alleged forcing of Harry to resign from royal duties. Take a back seat.
Yep, hit the nail on the head there. Well, dear royal Meghan Markle, ex-royal Meghan Markle, potential troublemaker, homewrecker, delight, had all sorts of labels thrown at her in a quest for ultimate public approval. So before the pandemic began dominating the headlines, Megxit was one of the main talking points, especially in the tabloid press, detailing her, and at the time Prince Harry's very public split from performing royal duties as part of the British monarchy.
Are you going to suggest that Meghan Markle's died coronavirus to take the
I think like every episode we've had a mention of coronavirus being created by someone with some power or influence. Or maybe we'll say that one for conspiracy. But yeah, there have been many angles that have attempted to explain the motives behind such a bold move, appearing to defy everything that the royal family embodied. It is well documented that the royal family is an incredibly tight unit, which is often referred to as the Firm, a moniker attributed to our good friend Prince Philip.
And Millwall.
Strong parallels between Millwall and the royal family.
They're both like lions.
Oh, good point. Anyway, right. Some conspiracy theorists have drawn links between the Freemasons and the monarchy, another organisation with very close ties and a strong sense of elitism from within the ranks. In fact, many members of the royal family are rumoured to be Freemasons, although only two current royals are publicly known to be part of the society. One is actually Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge, though, which is one of the highest ranks in the Freemasons, that being the Duke of Kent, Prince Edward, which means that the Queen's cousin is the most senior Freemason in the hierarchy.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so maybe that plies into more of this Illuminati theory going on. There's some sort of organisation behind the scenes plotting moves. So you have to listen to David Icke for more on that. But anyway, of all the conspiracies to have emerged from this saga, the one that has garnered the most attention is a theory that Megxit was engineered by the royal family in an attempt to divert media attention away from the scandal involving Prince Andrew. I'm sure that everyone is aware of the many allegations against the Prince concerning his close relationship with the child trafficking billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, as well as the infamous Pizza Express gate and the ramifications that the event seemed to imply. Andrew's close friendship with Epstein had been previously criticised as early as 2011, but really began to hit the public eye following Epstein's imprisonment after being exposed as a kingpin of a major sex trafficking organisation that had the potential to implicate numerous senior figures in the world of politics and celebrity with his infamous Little Black Book.
That black book, the amount of names that are in that is astounding.
It's not just names though, it's like flights, it's hotels, all the logistics of this massive ring. Also,
it's very worrying indeed. It's just you'd like to hope that one person would. I mean, I don't know how they decide who to ask about that. I don't know how Epstein just goes, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get Prince Andrew involved in this," but you'd like to hope that one person just gets asked and it's just like, "No, that's disgusting," and somehow gets it out.
Well, it does happen. You've had people try and kind of lift the lid on these things in the past, but they just get shut down and called idiots. Yeah. I mean, people were saying these things about Jimmy Savile for decades, and nothing ever came to light until he was dead. So I'm not too surprised that nothing ever came about. You had Hollywood A-lister. Well, he was an A-lister for a bit. Corey Feldman said he was abused by some of the biggest names in Hollywood, and no one ever listened to him. And he's only now getting some airtime. He's been saying it since
he still gets silenced regularly, though, and it's been a campaign from other people within Hollywood just trying to suppress his views. But I suppose it's these sad adage that money does talk, and Epstein, being a billionaire, can hire the best lawyers to get cases thrown out, etc., etc.
Exactly.
There just does seem to be a worrying correlation between people in high places and paedophilia.
Well, there's actually a theory behind why that is, and it's more that known paedophiles are kind of handpicked for high positions so that they've got something to be blackmailed with, so they can basically be controlled.
I've definitely heard, I think you probably mentioned that to me. We've watched the same podcast. But yeah, I definitely know what you're on about. Yeah. I say it could be a potential topic for another podcast because there's a lot of dodgy dealings going on with the quote-unquote elites of the world and potential Illuminati satanic rituals, everything that Alex Jones goes on about.
Yeah, it's slowly coming true, which is worrying.
That's very worrying. There's still also the thought that Alex Jones may be a CIA implant just to sow the seeds of discord amongst the masses.
Disinformation agent.
But let's get back to the theory. So, following a disastrous interview with BBC Newsnight on the 16th of November 2019, where he attempted to defend himself against a series of sex abuse allegations, likely facilitated by his relationship with Epstein. A statement from Buckingham Palace on the 20th of November revealed that Prince Andrew would be stepping back from public duties for the foreseeable future. This interview was apparently approved by the Queen, and insiders suggest that Andrew himself was actually happy with his performance in the interview. I don't know where he got that notion from, because what everyone else thought was a complete car crash of weird claims, or probably downright lies, and just trying to deceive the public and take them for idiots.
He's withdrawing him from public duties as well, not basically admitting he's guilty. Because if he wasn't, you'd think the royal family would fight it, and they'd say, no, he's completely innocent, he's going to carry on in his role, he's done nothing wrong. But they didn't do that at all. They didn't really issue any proper statements. He did that interview, denied it, but unconvincingly, and then he's been, in essence, stripped of all his duties. So it's suspicious to me.
I think there's a lot of evidence stacked up against him.
His defences were flimsy at best, saying thinking pictures of him with the girl in question. He claimed that they were doctored. He would never wear jeans and a unbuttoned shirt. When he's on his travelling days, he always wore suits and ties, despite him being pictured wearing more casual clothes in nightclubs, etc.
I think in a way, I guess, potentially the royal family knew he was guilty and kind of wanted to sever some ties with him, so they're not too associated with what he's done anymore.
It's the inherent problem with conspiracies, though. It has to go absolutely mainstream for anyone to believe it. Like, if you would have said even 5 years ago that a member of the royal family is a paedophile and he's in leagues with a ringleader, you would have just been laughed out of town. And now that it's all coming to light, it's actually being proven true. So it arguably gives weight to some of the other...
Yeah, I mean, you think that hands have been tied just given how much press there has been about it, and all of his just flimsy defence, the car crash interview, the fact that Epstein was also killed in prison, or the official story is he killed himself, but does anyone actually believe that?
I literally don't think anyone believes that.
As we said, it was a complete PR disaster. It left many questioning the credibility of the royal family with these potential links at how high up the chain does it go, because say Andrew's is quite a senior royal at the time, but does it go all the way up to the matriarch herself, Queen Elizabeth? Does she know about this previously? Or was she just casting a blind eye?
Well, Andrew is her favourite. Is he her son? He's her favourite child. I think he's her favourite child. It's quite well known, so I think she would have been reluctant to admit to anything like that.
As we were saying about deflecting attention away, enter Megxit. Before there was time for the dust to settle on the Prince Andrew debacle, the royal family found itself embroiled in another controversy, this time concerning the marriage between the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and their relationship with the firm. In October of 2019, before the main interview with Prince Andrew, Harry and Meghan announced they'd be taking a 6-week break from royal duties and would be celebrating Christmas away from the rest of the royal family, with the pair spending the festive season in Canada. On the 8th of January 2020 came the bombshell announcement that they wanted to take a new progressive role within the monarchy, which included achieving financial independence. Prior to this announcement, there had been plenty of rumours circulating in the tabloids about possible feuds within the family, particularly between Meghan and Kate, as well as between Meghan and the Queen herself. Were these legitimate grievances spilled by royal insiders, or were they part of an elaborate scheme to drum up false conflicts within the family, baiting out the ravenous tabloids and deflecting attention away from the now disgraced Prince Andrew? Despite stating their desire to become financially independent, it had emerged that Prince Charles would be using some of his private wealth to provide a substantial cash injection to his son and daughter-in-law. Does this add more credence to the possibility that Megxit was masterminded by the Windsors?
I mean, I don't think they're ever going to start from scratch, really, were they? They're never going to start from £0 and work. They're always going to have some millions given to them.
Do they really need it? Because given, say, Meghan's in the public eye now, she's been seen doing deals with Disney and...
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm sure Meghan alone's net worth is multi-million. Even before she met Harry, I'm sure she was worth millions. So
she's from a very poor family, though, wasn't she? Divorced home and stuff.
Yeah, being through Hollywood, being able to associate it with the Obamas, with Oprah Winfrey, that would probably draw in some cash injections, cash streams here and there from deals, appearances, the like.
Oh yeah, no doubt. She had money.
I mean, and she's a famous actor.
It's famous. Just
definitely got quite a bit of money.
I'd never heard of her, but that's not saying a lot.
It was on Dave, I seem to remember, a few years back. I think she's outgrown that now, to say the adage that any publicity is good publicity, just continuously raising her public profile. And she's definitely been attempting to cash in on that with the Sussex Royal brands. I think it was shut down by the Queen, actually, as part of the agreement. Quite ironic, given they'd had all this planned out. So, speaking of the Queen, she in fact issued a statement committing her full support to the couple's decision, saying that many months of conversations and more recent discussions had resulted in a constructive and supportive way forward for my grandson and his family. While it makes sense for the Queen to issue her public support for Harry and Meghan to try and best protect the integrity of the remaining royals, some insiders were suggesting that things weren't so harmonious behind the scenes. Multiple reports would emerge pertaining to Meghan's diva-like behaviour, including stories that she abused members of Kate's staff. She once made Kate cry at dress fitting, something like that. She'd in fact also disobeyed the Queen's orders regarding certain royal protocols, which is definitely a major no-go when dealing with the Queen. So more hardline conspiracists believe that Queen Elizabeth and the rest of the inner circle of the royals favour a pure-blooded approach to their lineage, meaning that people who married into the family from more humble backgrounds, like Meghan, are shunned by the elitist family. Some had even suggested that Meghan's exile was racially motivated, as her more progressive views did not align with those of the older royals.
You do have to wonder, given what Philip's come out and said in the past, if he might have had any personal reservations against it.
Really, though, is he not too busy infecting half the country with...
Yeah. What are you on about? He spends half his time in...
Yeah, so as Philip's gaffes aside, you do have to wonder, say, just the fact he is a lot older, certain views don't seem to align. Whether that's enough to, right, say, Meghan, you're out.
One thing I will say on the topic is I think even the most diehard royalists don't have a problem with non-white people in the royal family in the slightest. So.
No, maybe it's the fact she's American, potentially a CIA agent, setting to infiltrate and to reorganize 1776 again.
Yeah.
I think their main issue might have been that Meghan wanted to have her cake and eat it, because she was more than happy to have the royal wedding, to become part of the royal family, but then almost instantly she didn't want to do she didn't want to be photographed, she wanted her privacy, but she should know, rightly or wrongly, that isn't something that comes with the royal family. You know, you have to do royal duties, you get all this fantastic treatment from the taxpayer, you have to give something back, and she wanted all of the good parts of being a royal and none of the actual work you have to put in. See why she
got an
ruffled
angry
feathers.
taxpayer on our hands over
I do say, I think you have hit the nail on the head, and I do in fact use the phrase "have the cake and eat it" in reference to this.
My apologies.
Yeah, but no apology necessary. I think it's just basically summing up my thoughts on the matter, because there are just reports of the way she's been handling, say, something like that's quite important to the royals, the way they organise baby photos and also wedding pictures. They're always very formal. There's always a presentation outside the hospital, and Meghan opted for none of that.
Yeah, I feel like the royal family are very traditionalist. If you join them, you have to adapt in a big way that might seem very stupid to you personally. And I guess if you're from a more upper class, wealthy British family, you might also have some of that in your life. But if you come from maybe a more humble, even especially American background where it's so different way of life to here, you can imagine it's a very, very weird concept to come in and do all this stuff that you're required in the royal family. So she may have just spoken against it or just not bothered doing it because she thought it was silly.
Yeah.
She would have known what she was getting into, though, surely. It's not just marrying a posh family. You're marrying a blooming realm. Yeah. You know there's going to be certain ways of doing things. You know you've got to follow procedure.
John, you can't help it. You fall in love with.
Oh, yeah. Someone today, this was just a move to boost her public profile, and it's a very messy divorce is incoming over the next few years. So we will watch the space. So yeah, back to the original theory that Meghan's exit was a ploy to take the heat off Prince Andrew, and it maybe worked. On the 19th of January 2020, newspapers were reporting on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's final public engagement as full members of the royal family. Amongst the attendees was Prince Andrew, making his first official royal appearance since his disgraceful, well, basically sacking from royal duties. This was also after he was a notable absentee from the royals' traditional 11 a.m. Christmas Day church service, although he was photographed at a more private 9 a.m. service, but not the traditional meeting of the public the royals like to do on Christmas. Don't want to empathise them in the slightest, but you can't really blame the royals for saying, right, we don't want to be wheeling Prince Andrew out to meet the public, because it'll be just carnage.
No. I'd absolutely love them just wheeling
with special guests for you.
I think people are genuinely the old-fashioned lob a tomato at the camera.
Yeah.
Well, at the very least. I was saying, mentioning this, surely the reports would be dominated by a disgraced prince, especially given how damning the evidence was against him. But this was not the case. Given that this was the last royal duties performed by the outspoken Duke and Duchess of Sussex, their story dominated the press as a culmination of what many viewed as a very messy breakup at the heart of the royal family. Some newspapers even went so far to comment on Andrew's appearance, saying, "Oh, Meghan and Harry have taken the spotlight away from him now. He's able to go on with his normal life now." Does this suggest that mission was accomplished? That Andrew was successfully almost ushered back into the public slightly, with everyone having forgotten about his previous
I mean,
deeds?
without doubt, if the whole Meghan and Harry debacle never happened, Prince Andrew would be way more on the forefront of everyone's minds, at the forefront of the media. So whether it was planned or not, it definitely played a huge part in kind of putting what Prince Andrew had done a bit to the side. So there's definitely some weight in this theory.
Yeah, so it's just the timing of it seems almost too convenient, even though he's expressed his distaste, as well, the right word used, with the royal, or some of the aspects of the royal family, the royal
Disdain.
Yeah, disdain. Yes, that's probably the better one. But yeah, the way, obviously, being his mother, what we touched on in the first theory about how Diana was treated, and he's sort of alluded to going along the same lines with Meghan.
Do you think there could potentially just be a bit of causation here? Like Meghan was just absolutely horrified by what was coming to light about Prince Andrew and kind of kicked off about in the way the royal family were defending Prince Andrew despite what he'd done, and were trying to shove it under the carpet. Do you think Meghan may have spoken out about this, and this kind of caused her to create a rift with the family and therefore leave?
Yeah, I suppose not wanting to trivialise the issue, but you think it just maybe come down to the British versus American attitude to conflict. I suppose the Americans are perfectly comfortable creating a scene, whereas us Brits, we've taken a much more subdued approach. But jokes aside, I do think that could be a big factor. I think the lengths that the Royals may or may not have gone to do PR for Andrew after his awful interview. And
yeah,
it would almost be her
Definitely
kicking them when they're down, though, and you feel like if she was a nice person, she wouldn't do that, because it was kind of one blow followed by another with Andrew, and then them suddenly leaving. So as a royal, you think maybe you could put your personal opinion to one side.
Backtrack on what you just said. You just said that if she's a nice person, she would help cover up the paedophilic crimes of Prince Andrew.
I suppose a nice person in the eyes of the Royals, or towing the royal line, because the matter of whether she's a nice person or not is definitely up for debate.
I suppose the notable difference between her and Diana as well, Diana, as much as she in some ways resented her role as a royal, she was always keen to say that she never wanted a divorce. She didn't like the way it all went south, whereas Meghan almost seems to have relished it. And Diana said she would never let down her people, and she would have never willingly kind of stepped down from all those duties, which is why she carried on doing royal visits even when she wasn't a royal. Whereas I think she differs quite greatly from Meghan there, in the sense that Meghan is more than willing to step down even when she was still a royal.
The royal family, in a way, were kind of out against Meghan. She didn't get Westminster Abbey, and I mean, Prince William and Kate did, so you can imagine that must have dealt quite a sore blow.
Frogmore Cottage, though, and $2 million worth of taxpayer paid renovations.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can't complain about that. But
because William was the heir, it's only reserved for heirs, I think. That's why Charles got it and William got it. But they weren't going to make an exception for her, especially if they didn't really like her anyway. Yeah,
for all to say there are all things to quibble about with the royal family, you do think maybe Meghan had caught with this whole Andrew situation and wanted to just get out, like the film. Almost. So what are we thinking overall of the believability for this? I think I've given all of the information I found. We've got theories left, right, and centre on her motives.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem quite believable that they would want to take distraction away from Prince Andrew, and whether it was meant or not, it definitely worked without doubt. In terms of Prince Andrew's whole background, that's also very believable, so that's another believable part of this. And then as well, Meghan wanting to leave would also be quite believable. So all in all, a lot of it is believable. In terms of the royal family themselves staging it, I kind of find that a little bit less believable, but I'm probably erring towards a solid 4 out of 10 on the believability scale for you. For the conspiracy as a whole, I mean, there's so many conspiracies branching of it. There's so much rationale, and there's also a lot of believable factors in all the conspiracies that you mentioned. So I'm going to say it's a solid 8.5 out of 10 for a conspiracy.
What are you, John? What are your thoughts?
I think in terms of believability, I mean, the allegations against Andrew, which are almost certainly true, are so atrocious and paint the royal family in such an awful light, especially if you would presume that they had known about this for some time. It's quite a hard thing to get away with, and they've been covering it up. So you would think that at all costs they would try and divert eyes. And if that meant almost sacrificing one of their own and just pushing Harry aside along with Meghan, then they would look to do it. So I think it certainly has legs. I think it would be almost not even a conspiracy if it was anyone other than Meghan who had done this. But I think there's been so many rumblings of her being a bit of a troublemaker and wanting to break the mold of a traditional royal and never really being, despite marrying into the royal family, knowing what she should have expected, rightly or wrongly, she didn't really want to do a lot of that kind of stuff, and then wanting to take the royal title but not do anything to deserve it. I think maybe drags the believability down a bit because it's almost painted as if, well, she'd probably want to leave anyway. So for believability, just because, like, to take eyes off Andrew, I think they would do almost anything. I'll give it a 4.5. I'll go a little bit higher than Luke. As a conspiracy as a whole, I mean, it's great. It's got webs of deception and cover-ups in terms of the Andrew allegations.
That one being the heart of it. Ooh.
Yeah, it's compelling. And yeah, you have like an outsider who's compare her to Kate. You know, Kate's not very outspoken. She very much does her royal duties, kind of politely and quietly gets on with it, whereas Meghan's almost
just lovely all around, really.
Yeah, exactly. Big up, Kate. So yeah, overall conspiracy, I'll go for an 8 out of 10.
Thank you very much. Right, so I think I'll just sort of unite basically what both of you are saying, that it's almost a case of maybe correlation without causation again, just because that Harry has said in the past he's not been as bought in as much to the royal duties thing, given his crusade against the tabloid presses, maybe rightly or wrongly, given how many times his privacy has been invaded. But you do think, again, it's not, say, part and parcel. We are expected to turn up to events and have your picture taken, but some of the things he has had to deal with have been...
He's always been the wild child, hasn't he, compared to William?
Yeah, so that's a natural thing, just wanted to rebel. Then maybe Meghan's been the catalyst that think, okay, right, we can do this now. I won't have to worry about my public profile. Now I'm married to Meghan Markle, who's going up in all the right places in social circles with the Obamas, with Winfrey, getting her Disney deals and stuff. It just seemed like maybe it could be like fast-tracked to just be given the Andrew situation, right, we'll just hurry this one along just to get it out. But say for the believability, I'm going to basically follow what you guys are saying. I'm going to go for about a 5, I think, just somewhere along the middle. Because you could believe it's happened, but you also just think, would that just be admitting that Andrew is completely messed up now? We're just casting him to the side.
I don't think they have much choice into it.
Yeah, but that would just be almost admitting that the royal family, knew what's going on. If they wanted to say that he's innocent, they, as you said earlier, I think they just continue his business as usual. But the fact he's been stripped of his duties to show that the family was like, we're not happy with you, rightly so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it could go either way, that one. But as for the overall conspiracy, like I said, just the fact that the Epstein and Prince Andrew scandal and everything that could potentially implicate is at the heart of it really boosts it, because otherwise it's just sort of a dodgy soap opera between the royals and you said this, you did that, sort of mudslinging between, Meghan's not very nice, or Meghan's a really upstanding member of society, she works really hard but she just can't cope. But I do think there's a certain diva-ish streak to her, maybe being from America. I mean, the world of Hollywood and LA wants to do her things her way, and not really understanding the actual full commitments you've got to give to the role of being a full-time working royal.
I think you have to be quite cutthroat to make it in Hollywood anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And as an actress.
Yeah, especially an actress of colour as well, but not to get too political. So I say overall conspiracy, I'll go, yes. I'll take 7.5. Definitely elevated by the Prince Andrew allegations, but that's just so much more conspiracy with Epstein and his little black book. We do a whole episode on that one.
Yeah, definitely.